All right, welcome to this week's live Q&A show where we're here in Austin, Texas to answer all of your questions live about how to sell on Amazon, whether you're a beginner, experienced seller, or maybe you just want to come here to hang out with us. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to start first by answering some questions from last week's live Q&A video. So each week we do these live Q&As here on YouTube, and we ask you guys to really just ask us any type of question in the live chat. But when the video ends, we're always answering questions in the comments. And this week, we're going to start with those questions here. So we're going to start with the pre-submitted questions, and then we're going to switch over to the live questions in just a few minutes. So let's go ahead and get started. If you're watching live, feel free to submit your questions in the comments, and then I'll pop those on screen once we get through these pre-submitted questions. But all right, so let's go into our first question here. I launched my first product 15 days ago and still have no sales. Any advice? Yes, I do. So I drew up a little visual here that I want to show. And my advice to anybody who's just getting started on Amazon and you just launched a new product, there are basically two ways that you can go about your product launch. You can be very conservative or you can be very aggressive. Now, certainly there is a middle ground here. You don't have to choose one or the other. But from my experience, I've launched products with the conservative mindset. I've launched products with the aggressive mindset, and they both have pros and cons to them. So I want to sort of talk through the strategy of each one. And I'll start here with the conservative mindset. This is when you have a product that you've essentially spent most of your money on inventory, right? Or other business components, like maybe setting up an LLC or getting a trademark and getting into brand registry. Whatever the case is, you're low on funds. So you can't be that aggressive when launching your first product. PPC is the number one best way to get sales on a new product because when you first launch, you're not going to be showing up anywhere organically in the first 1, 2, or maybe even third page on Amazon. So advertising is really the only way on Amazon to get out in front of customers. So in the conservative mindset, what I would do and what I would focus on is running two types of sponsored product campaigns. Those are the automatic campaigns, which essentially are fetching keywords and letting Amazon do the bidding for you. And then there's manual campaigns where you're using a tool like Keyword Scout to figure out what type of search terms customers are already typing on Amazon to buy your type of product. And then you're bidding on those keywords separately from an automatic campaign. So those are the two campaign types. But specifically now, in manual, the three type of campaigns that I found work very well under this conservative mindset, which again, the goal is to just remain as profitable as you can without losing too much money. Because inevitably, when you first launch a product with 1, 2, 0, or even 5 reviews even, your conversion rate on those ads are going to be very low. So the likelihood of being under a 30% ACoS or your break-even ACoS is going to be very low. Now, there are certain scenarios where that can still happen, but for the most part, from my experience, conversion rates are going to be pretty poor until you get to around 5, 10, or even 20 reviews. But the three campaigns that I found work very, very well, very profitably, regardless of how many reviews you have, are long tail keywords. So again, this is when you use a keyword research tool like Jungle Scout to find keywords, phrases that have at least 4 keywords in them, right? So the product that we sell here at Jungle Scout, they're washable pee pads for dogs. Now that's a 4-letter phrase, and most people type in pee pads for dogs, which is a 3-letter phrase. That keyword is very expensive to bid on, and it's also very broad for us because we sell washable pee pads, but there's also reusable pee pads on the market. So that keyword, while very high search volume, is less relevant and harder for us to compete with. So we like to bid on those long tail keywords like washable pee pads for dogs, or take it one step further, washable pee pads for senior dogs, or washable pee pads for puppies. And those are keywords that we found are cheaper because the search volume is lower, and also they're more relevant for your product. So the conversion rate will be slightly better than those high volume broad keywords. So I would really focus on long tail keywords at launch under this conservative phase. The next campaign or targeting type that I found really works well is competitor ASIN targeting. And this is when you essentially are pinpointing which competitors you want to show up for on Amazon. So if we go over to Amazon right now, looking at Pooper Scoopers, which I need one for my dog at the moment. So these competitor ASIN campaigns are essentially the ads that are running right here. You see this sponsored. And there's another row right here. They can come in a lot of different formats. I think if you scroll down, there's so many different carousels that these can be in. But essentially, the competitor async campaigns, I found at least, to be very, very profitable. They won't spend as much as an automatic campaign or typical keyword campaigns, but you can actually choose which competitors you want to target. So if you have 5 reviews, you might want to target a competitor who has maybe 100 reviews versus a competitor that has 1,000 reviews. They're at the top of the category. And so just kind of think like if you were shopping for that product, if you're shopping for pooper scoopers and you're at like the #1 product in that niche with like 20,000 reviews, when you scroll down, are you going to click a product that has 5 reviews, or would you click a product that has like 500 reviews? So you kind of need to use that reverse engineering mindset a little bit and find competitors that are, I would say, like on the same level as you or near your same level. But I found those to be very, very profitable. And then the last one is sponsored brand video campaign. So I was mainly talking about sponsored product campaigns with these two, but sponsored brand video campaigns are very profitable as well. Again, at least in my experience in the categories that I've launched products in. Again, these aren't going to spend as much as your your automatic or other manual campaigns, but video campaigns really resonate with consumers because they show up in a huge, huge block on Amazon. In fact, I'm curious if I go back to the search results, if there was one on here. They're typically better on mobile. So yeah, right here. Okay, great. So this one right here on mobile would probably be at the top or closer to the top than this one is. And they really grab your attention. Like they literally take this whole carousel that, other products, like at least 4 or 5 products would take up normally, depending on your monitor size. So I found just through experience again that those sponsored video campaigns really hit. And they're very, very profitable typically. Now, so that's the conservative side. If you were to be more aggressive, so let's say you have more funds available, whether it's, you set aside an advertising budget, or maybe you just launched one variation right now and you have maybe a couple $100s to be really aggressive on your product launch. And you want to take advantage of the honeymoon period, which if you're not aware of the honeymoon period, there's actually a question I think coming up next that I'll answer that talks more about that. So let's get into the aggressive mindset and strategy for this. So as opposed to PPC here on the conservative side, what I would do if I'm going very aggressive is add a coupon onto my PPC. And something I should have added as well here is lower price too. So if you can afford it, you can lower your price, you can offer a coupon, and you can advertise, which is going to be the best way to get potential customers that see your low review product to click on it. And then obviously if it's a good price, this is giving them a better chance of converting. So if you have the funds available, you might lose a little bit of money kind of acquiring customers in the beginning. But this is the best way to just really be aggressive in your first product launch, or really any type of product launch. And then I kind of split these out again into automatic and manual. The difference here though is you're going to be able to test new campaign types. The mindset difference between conservative and aggressive is with conservative, you're just trying to hold on to as much profit as you can because you really need that money to order your next round of inventory. With aggressive, you probably have a little bit of funds left over to either buy your next round of inventory, or you've actually dedicated funds for this aggressive product launch with advertising. And so what that allows you to do is test new campaign types. Over here, you're sort of sticking with the winners. You want to run low bids, low budgets, down only bidding, which if you're unfamiliar, it's basically letting Amazon bring your bid down if it thinks you can still convert at it, versus up and down bidding, where you're allowing Amazon to say, hey, my bid was $1, but if you think I can go to $2 and win, do it. And so this is being more aggressive, letting Amazon kind of win you more bids and essentially spend more. You need to be careful with that, but what you're able to do when you're aggressive is to test campaign types. So you're still doing your high volume keywords, your competitor ASINs, your sponsor brand video campaigns, but then you're also doing high volume keywords. So these are keywords, like I said, pee pads for dogs. They might not convert as well, but maybe you'll get a few sales back and they will help you rank. So that's an option that you have, is to choose high volume keywords, adding that into the mix, and then category targeting. Very similar to competitor ASINs, you're gonna be showing up on a product detail page, and category targeting is just a little more broad. I like to think of it as the automatic campaign targeting for this type of targeting type. So it allows you to test. And then sponsored display campaigns. Again, this all kind of falls under testing new campaign types. When you're aggressive, your main goal is to just go up in ranks as fast as possible. It's also your goal to get as many reviews as you can as fast as possible. And so when you do everything here and you're very, very aggressive, yes, you might lose a little bit of money or not make a lot of money. In our case, we have a video on our YouTube channel that shows you exactly how much money we lost in our first year on Amazon. Spoiler alert, I think we lost money in the first 3 months because we were very, very aggressive in this strategy here. However, that netted us, I think, like 500 reviews in our first year. And I think 100 reviews in our first 3 months. So after that 3-month mark where we had 100 reviews, we switched from passive to conservative. We slowed down our spending. We just overall tightened things up, and we became profitable after month 3. So in the full year, we did make money, but in the first 3 months, we did lose a little bit of money. Again, if you want to see that video, head over to our Jungle Scout channel, and I think it's like, you should be able to find it under the video side. It might be on the live tab, but that's a great resource for you as well. So hopefully that helps answer your question a little bit. Long story short, advertising is the best way to get sales in your first launch or in any type of product launch. And then you just got to determine whether you want to be conservative or aggressive. All right, so that was the first question. I went a little bit long on that, but these next questions I'll kind of get through a little bit faster, and then I'll get to your guys' questions, the live questions as well. So let's now head over to the second question, which is, what's the honeymoon period? And this is what I touched on a little bit ago, but the honeymoon period is essentially when you first launch your product, when inventory arrives at Amazon for the very first time and your listing is available for purchase. Amazon gives you, supposedly, it's not really like said by Amazon that this happens, but they give you a honeymoon period where if you're able to drive a lot of sales really quickly, so essentially you're able to generate a high sales velocity, then they're going to reward you with more coverage or more exposure. And so what happened to us actually is we got a badge on our listing called, I think it was a new releases badge, or a best new release badge or something like that. And essentially that added our product free of charge organically to a spot on Amazon that a lot of shoppers just casually browse. And so without having to pay for ads, our listing immediately thrusted up the organic ranks because we were on this page, because we had a new releases badge. The reason we got that badge is because we went through that aggressive launch phase that I just sort of went through with advertising. And so we went really heavy the first 3 months. And I think maybe month 2, we got that badge. But once we got that badge, I mean, the next month later, we sold out. So that badge really gave us a lot of organic sales. But it did also cause us to go out of stock, which, is a good trade-off in my opinion. So that is something that I would consider if you have the funds available. When you're first launching, maybe try the aggressive route. Try to take advantage of that honeymoon period. And, worst case scenario, it doesn't work, but you hopefully got some sales volume that you can hopefully get reviews out of. And you're going to be in a lot better spot than you were if you were to be conservative. But the conservative way is definitely a great place to start. You don't have to start fast. A lot of people think that's like the best way of doing it, which maybe it is. But if you don't have the funds available for it, it's not the best way of doing it. So go with whatever your budget allows, and then maximize whichever strategy you're doing, whether that's conservative or the aggressive. But yeah, so that's a very good question. Let's move on to the next pre-submitted question, which is, should I launch multiple variations at once, or should I start with one first? This is a great question. So I hate to keep saying the same thing here, but if you have the funds available, I would launch multiple variations at once. However, I wouldn't just launch it to launch more variations. What I would do is actually look at the category and see if the top sellers, maybe the top 5 to 10 sellers, if they're getting sales because they have a lot of variations. For example, maybe you're looking at, an easy example would be shirts, right? Where not everybody's the same size. So you might get drawn into the product because of the design. Maybe you really like this Jungle Scout shirt. You're like, awesome, I need an orange shirt that says Jungle Scout on it. You click on it and they only have small available, but you're a large. That's going to be a quick reason to not buy that product and go to your competitors, or go to a competitor. And so I would look at launching multiple variations if it's a necessity for sales. If it's not a necessity for sales, for example, our washable pee pads that we sell for dogs, we sell that in a regular size. It fits most dogs. But there are products in our niche that sell a large, a small, they even sell them in 2-packs or 4-packs, but it's not necessary for the consumer to have those options. So that's what I would think about and really just look through the data to see, are the top sellers, are they, only successful because of those variations, or could I get away with launching one variation and do pretty good with that? A quick kind of shortcut to figure that out is look at the sales data with Jungle Scout and see if products with one variation are selling well. If they're doing that and you can see multiple products with just one variation selling very well, then I would feel pretty confident in just launching one variation at first. And then later down the line, with more funds available, you can launch new variations. But hopefully that answers your question. So let's now head on to the next pre-submitted question, which is, if a product can't be changed much, would you still pass on it even if it has high demand and low competition? Great question, because we always talk about improvement potential as one of the key factors for why you'd want to choose a product. So, if there's a coffee mug like this, and maybe there's another product like this little plant here, I could probably improve these both a little bit. But to be honest with you, I'm not sure how I would change this outside of design or aesthetics. And with this, I think there's a lot of things I could do, but it might be expensive. So what I'm trying to say is it's not a necessity to have to be able to change something. But if you do it, it's going to future-proof your business, because not everybody with a couple $1,000s are going to be able to launch and compete against you. And then also just will separate your product from the bunch. So when you go to advertise, you should hopefully be a lot more profitable with an improved product that has actually improved benefits versus all the other products on the market. Now, you don't need to be crazy and invent something and patent something, but one small improvement, like reading through reviews and seeing what people are talking about, if everybody's like, hey, this is holding my coffee hot for like 2 hours, that's a real problem because I work 8 hours. You would make sure that your supplier can maybe increase the time that this stays hot or cold for at least 8 hours. So that's like a huge functional improvement that I would focus on. In relation to like high demand and low competition, again, improvement potential isn't necessary, but I truly think it's one of the things that will separate you from everybody else, and it'll be kind of what can make your product, I guess, investable. If you're ever looking to sell your brand one day, or even just like your product, a lot of investors will want to make sure that they can be protected in the long run with some sort of improvement difference, or just something that sets you apart from everybody else that's doing the exact same thing. So I would definitely recommend improving the product. All right, so our next question here is, any tips on designing product images and listing copy? Pause as I take a drink. This is a pretty vague question, but there's two parts of this. There's product images and there's listing copy. For product images, and honestly listing copy as well, the best place to start is customer reviews. You can use a tool like Jungle Scout, and I'll show you how to do this real quick in a second, but why I say customer reviews is you want to see what people are talking about in your niche already. That is the most important information that you can have as a marketer. If everybody is saying one thing, you need to say how your product does that thing better or whatever. So like a good example of this is if everybody in the niche is saying, these products don't hold up well, they're so weak. Well, in your images, that's what you should show. You should show how your product, you can literally put dumbbells on it and it won't break apart. You need to get out in front of basically these customer concerns. So I would dig through Amazon reviews of all your competitors that are selling similar products, see what people are talking about, put it into a list that you can sort of say, okay, 12 people talked about this thing, 8 people talked about that thing, and you're sort of like ranking them or prioritizing them. And then go to your photographer and say, we need to show these benefits, or we need to show how our product does the opposite of what they're saying, or is an improved version of what they're looking for. So I would use customer reviews to really inform your images. And then the same thing goes for your copy. You need to make sure you have a lot of high volume keywords in your listing. And that's what Jungle Scout's listing builder helps you do. But in terms of like what to write about, that's all just speaking to the customer. The keywords you use are speaking to Amazon's algorithm, but what you say is speaking to the customer. And so I'll show you real quick now kind of how to do this in Jungle Scout in terms of getting customer reviews. So we have a tool inside the toolbox called Review Analysis. I'll need to grab an ASIN first, so let me just grab this one here, plug it on into the analysis, and then with a click of a button, basically, I'm going to get a bunch of key insights that, if you've ever done something with like ChatGPT, you'll get pretty similar insights as well. So these are all the reviews visualized over the past. It looks like I have how many years here? 2 years this product's been I got reviews for, but you can separate them by weekly, daily, monthly, and you can start to see trends real fast here in the colors. You can even kind of read the reviews. But what I like to do just that real quick when I'm analyzing products is read this AI review analysis section. So this is AI kind of just scanning through the reviews, the written reviews, and interpreting what people like about the product. So common positive, common negative comments, what they dislike about the product, but also like more prescriptive, like how could you improve this product? How does this product compare to others on the market? How could you actually beat this product? And sometimes there's just other trends that, we didn't ask it with these other prompts that it's helpful to read with this last bullet point here. So what I'm doing when I'm planning my images and listing copy, I'm doing this for all the products in the niche that are relevant to my product, and then making a list of everything that I essentially just need to call out with the written word on the copy and in my images and also the video as well. So just real quick, that's how you use AI review analysis. You can head over to Jungle Scout to learn more about it. Here, it's somewhere over here. And then you can also check out some of our YouTube content that we have some more, tutorials on. So if that is that question answered, let me make sure I'm gonna get to the right question here. All right, so that was the last question. Let's now move on to the next question, pre-submitted question. This is a good one. Can I expand my existing trademark, which is registered in one category, to cover products in a different category? So I love this question because it seems like a simple answer. The answer is actually no. So when you file a trademark, you are submitting it under a certain category class, right? So I'm not sure the actual classes, but like, t-shirts or apparel would be a class, and I don't know, like the office supplies would be a separate class. If you register one category and it's submitted or it's pending even, the way of adding to it is creating a new trademark. And this is very common because people will launch a product or a brand even, and they know they're going to sell 2 different products down the line, but they only registered in one category because it's cheaper that way. However, what I would do if you have the funds available is to register both now, even though you're not selling in one of them. That way it's just simple for you because you have one application. But if that's not the case for you and you have one category pending or accepted even, and you want to add one, you just got to create a new trademark. Again, you got to go down that process again, but it's totally worth it if you really want to get a trademark for that brand under that class of product. So I guess long answer short, you would have to file another trademark application in a separate class if you didn't in the first one. Okay, so this question we get all the time. How do I get UPC barcodes? UPC barcodes, it's pretty simple. We got a lot of content on this. You basically go to gs1. Let's type in gs1. I think it's gs1.org. Yes, it is gs1.org. And here you can get your barcodes up at the top. And then you select your country. I'm going to go United States. Get a barcode /GTIN is another way you can kind of say it. And then you come down here and there's 2 options for you. You either start small with a single US GTIN or GS1 code, or if you think you're going to launch a bunch of different products, then you can get a company prefix, which essentially, as you can see here, the 2 options are if you go, if you get 1 barcode, it's $30. If you need 10, it's $250 plus $50 every year. And you just kind of see how that goes. So you could get like 5 GS1 barcodes, or I think like up to like 8 or 9 that would be cheaper this way, just going one by one, because you don't have to pay an annual fee. It's just $30 per barcode, and basically for every unique product that you're selling, you need a barcode for it. So if I have, these 2 products here, let me go to the big screen. Okay, I got these 2 products here, totally different products. This needs a barcode and this needs a barcode, 2 different barcodes. However, if I am launching this product in different colors, I still will need different barcodes. So this will need a barcode that's separate from the other color, let's say black. And basically that's just like the example that I'm trying to get out, but it's very confusing to new sellers. It was to me myself, because you think like, okay, I'm gonna order 1,000 units of this. Do I need 1,000 different UPC barcodes? The answer is no. You just need one per unique product. And then if you launch a variation or a totally separate product, then you will need a new barcode, different numbers for that new product. Hopefully that answered your question. But essentially, gs1.org is where you're going to get your UPC barcodes. All right, so this next question, we have two more before we get to the live Q&A questions, is should I use a freight forwarder or AGL, which is Amazon Global Logistics? So we're testing this out ourselves. Amazon Global Logistics, if you're not aware, is essentially Amazon is acting as a freight forwarder for you. So they're going to be able to get your products from your supplier in China and send it all the way into their Amazon warehouses. So that's very nice because they just streamline the entire process for you. Once you get all the paperwork filled out, which that's a whole rabbit hole to go down, I would just Google and maybe watch some other content on that. In the future, hopefully we will make that content. But once you get all that paperwork filled out, which it's really not that much, then Amazon is going to do all that work for you. Now, what I would recommend is getting quotes from both. So use a site like Fredos.com. If you're not familiar, check out our How to Sell on Amazon video. It's our main video here on the channel that we update every single year. And go over to that supplier section or the freight forwarder section. And we have a little demo of how to do this on Fredos.com. But on Fredos.com, you can get a quote. And then on Amazon AGL, you can get a quote as well. And you can compare that every time that you're making these shipments. That's what I would recommend doing. Or if you kind of have been doing that for a little bit and you understand the quotes are pretty similar and you just want to streamline it, then you can choose AGL because it does streamline it. But I would always recommend testing, comparing, and then going with the cheaper option or going with whatever option is going to make your life a lot easier, because that certainly plays a part here. I think the peace of mind of having Amazon, just one person handle everything, is worth a couple $100 for me. It's probably not worth a couple $1,000. So, if AGL was like $200-$300 more, depending on how many units I ordered, I might do AGL. But again, just test and compare. That would be the best way to figure out what's going to do good for you. But okay, one more question here, pre-submitted question, and then we'll get to the live questions. And that is, how do we ungate products before purchasing since suppliers don't give invoices before buying? Now, I assume this is for wholesale, where in order to get ungated for that product, you need to usually supply Amazon with an invoice from the brand that's allowing you to sell that product. So this is a tricky one. I can't call myself a wholesale expert. I have some experience, but not a wholesale expert in any regards. But from my experience, you will always need that invoice. And so the best way of getting that without purchasing too much inventory is to purchase a few units, like literally maybe 1 or 2 units, and tell the supplier that you plan on buying more after you get ungated. But that way you're just able to get the invoice from the supplier to get ungated. So you maybe are spending less than $100 to get ungated. Once that happens, then you go back to the supplier and you purchase your regular amount of inventory at your agreed upon price. So that's what I would recommend doing, is getting that invoice at the lowest cost possible just to get ungated, and then go from there. So Jungle Scout actually has a really good article on that. So if you're unfamiliar at Jungle Scout on our website, you can come over here to resources and go to our blog, or you could always just type in at the search bar here, ungated. And I was just reading this the other day. Or you can type in any topic really, and you'll get a lot of good material for it. And so here we go. We have the Amazon Restricted Categories, Your Guide to Getting Ungated article. And so clicking into that will give you really a bunch of good information about being ungated. And here we have it separated by the category it looks like. So this is a really good article if you're looking to get ungated. All right. So that was all of our pre-submitted questions. Hopefully you guys got some value out of that. If you want to be in the next video, make sure to leave a comment under this video, not a chat. You can certainly still engage with us here in the chat box, because I'm going to answer those questions now, but in the future, we're doing these every week. So once this video ends, feel free to add all your questions to the comments, and then we'll take as many as we can over into the next video. But okay, let me go through these questions and start favoriting them and get them up on screen for you. I'm testing this stream out, so hopefully they come up on screen well. So let's see, give me 1 second. All right. Dark Angel asks, how to deal with Amazon fees? Sales with no profit. It's a good question. How to deal with Amazon fees in general is a tough question because Amazon fees are expensive. They're a part of selling. But in my opinion, they make life so much easier. And not the actual fee, the kind of work that you're paying for with those fees. So what I mean by that is I don't think I would have ever been an Amazon seller if Amazon FBA didn't exist. Because the hardest part of selling anything is the logistics of it. How are you going to get that product to the customer? Where are you going to store it? And how are you going to do that quick and meet customer expectations, which Amazon now is a 2-day delivery window. And, product research is fun, in my opinion. Building a brand is fun, but the logistics is a nightmare. And I don't know if I would ever got started if Amazon didn't take care of all that for me. So I just kind of want to lead with that first, because I think when you think about maybe doing your own Shopify business, which is a great supplemental part of your Amazon business, once you reach a certain stage, you're going to have to do all that stuff yourself. And what I found is that is going to potentially equal what Amazon is charging you per unit to fulfill your products with FBA. And so now to answer the question a little more directly, the best way to deal with Amazon fees is to do your homework up front. When you're doing product research, you ideally want to find a product that after Amazon fees, you're still netting 1/3 of your sales price. So for example, if your product's selling at $30, you want your Amazon fees to be around $10 or under. Now, if it's 11, 12, or 13, that's fine. The other third of that is your product cost. So if it costs you $10 to get your product, $10 in Amazon fees, that means you have $10 left over. That's exactly what we're shooting for. It's 100% ROI is the goal, or in net margin terms, 33% on the low end is what we shoot for. So the best way to answer this is to do your homework up front to make sure that you're selling a product that you ideally can sell where the Amazon FBA fees aren't going to take up more than 10%. A third of your sales price. Now, in terms of actually growing a brand and figuring out your Amazon fees, the best way of kind of mitigating those is a few ways. So the referral fee, you can send traffic off of Amazon to Amazon. Amazon will give you a reduction in referral fees. That's one way. The other way is your storage. So you can send less inventory in. You can just make more frequent shipments from your supplier's warehouse into Amazon. That will cut down on how much you're spending on storage, especially in Q4. Q4 is a killer. This past Q4 for us, our storage costs were out of the roof. I mean, we had to get the inventory in to meet the Q4 demand, but in the first few weeks before Christmas shopping started, we were getting crushed by storage fees. So what I would recommend doing, it's probably the best way to save money right now, is to just send in more shipments, but less inventory at a time. So that way you're not paying Amazon a whole bunch in storage fees. Now you need to kind of do that math with your supplier to see if that kind of offsets the shipping, offsets the storage cost. But that's what I would recommend doing, is sending less shipments and really looking at your storage costs first. It's a great question though. Okay. Where can I get a full tutorial on Jungle Scout? Great question. Here on YouTube, we have tons of great tutorials. You can also head over to the Academy. So if you're a Jungle Scout user, I will share my screen to show exactly what I'm talking about. We have an Academy section here, and we're updating this all the time. We're going to actually update it more in the future here. And we have a bunch of good modules here. So selling on Amazon is more general. Jungle Scout tool tutorials is kind of where you can get all of your tutorials from. But actually, where I would go is on our YouTube channel. If you head over to YouTube and you scroll down, we have a playlist actually of Jungle Scout training getting started. And so if you click on that, you'll see all of our tool tutorials here. Or literally you can just type in Jungle Scout, whatever you're looking for. What it would say, product database is one of our product research tools. And typically you'll find some pretty good content from us as well as some of our affiliates as well. Great question. All right, so let's see here. So I assume this is a question about wholesale as well, because we've done some content about this idea that I believe you're referring to, where you've reached out to brands and you're asking to optimize their listing in exchange for, the wholesale rights on Amazon. So this is a really great strategy. Now, maybe to your point here, not a lot of brands might show interest because think about it, they're probably getting hundreds of these emails a week or a month or a day even, depending on how large they are. So if they're not responding, try your best to email them. You can always call them. A lot of wholesalers or brands are just better that way. Maybe they're smaller and they would rather deal with you on the phone. If you've exhausted all your communication methods, just move on to the next brand. I think wholesale, part of, at least in my opinion, why I never really went into it full time is because it's a more of a hustle. You have to constantly do product research or brand outreach versus private label, where you kind of do that homework up front, and it does take a couple of weeks or months even. But then once you've got the product and you've launched it, you're sort of done, and you're just more so growing your brand. But hopefully that helps answer your question. Is you can always just move on to the next one and just don't get too tied to one brand or one wholesaler. Where is the best place to find out about packaging requirements and how to find the best company to make inventory audits in China? Good question. So packaging requirements, the best source is always going to be Amazon's help documents. So you can type in on Google Amazon Seller Central packaging requirements or Amazon FBA packaging requirements. That's the best way to find the most up-to-date information because they may have changed or whatever the case is. I believe on the Jungle Scout blog, we probably have an article on packaging requirements as well. So I'd recommend checking out that article. It's probably going to give you more digestible information than Amazon, but I'd always still cross-reference on Amazon's own help pages, just again, because they do change from time to time and you want to have the most up-to-date information. Also, I would highly recommend working with a supplier that is Amazon friendly. So someone who has experience selling to Amazon sellers. That to me is one of my must-haves when I reach out to suppliers. I ask if they work with other Amazon sellers. Sometimes they think it's like a trick question where they don't want to say they do because they want to get my business. But I actually want them to say yes because I just want to make sure that they know how to send it to Amazon, that they have experience using Amazon's requirements, and they're just all around Amazon/e-commerce experts. So that's one of the best ways to fulfill Amazon's requirements. Now, how to make inventory audits in China. So the best way is to hire someone that's just going to go in and basically like investigate, or I would especially do this on my first order, is to make it into your agreement that someone is going to go in there, a third-party source, and inspect your product. So there's a bunch of good inspection companies out there. I think Kima is the one that we used in the past, QIMA. But I look for a third-party inspection company to look at least your first round of inventory. And then if you're able to, as much rounds as you want to, they'll be able to go in and inspect those units at your at your manufacturer's factory. Great question, though. Interesting question, Ali. So I have got my packaging printed, but a brand already has the same name. I'm thinking of adding an extra word to the logo and have one dummy packaging made just for brand approval. Will this work? Potentially, yeah. I'm curious. It doesn't sound like maybe you're trademarked, I assume, right? Are you thinking about trademarking that new word that's different? If so, the answer to that is just to make sure that that new word is not taken in your class of product. So you just go to, depending on where you're selling, but in the US, I'd go to, is it USPTO? Is that the trademark office? It's just like online, and you can type that in and you can see all the active and even the dead trademarks with that name and what class they're selling in. You could also hire somebody for cheap, under $500, to kind of do that check for you. Or if you're doing trademarking, if you go through the Amazon IP Accelerator program, which is Amazon's, basically they have a connection with some lawyers or some trademark attorneys that are going to do the checks for you and then also file your trademark for you. They'll run those checks for you before filing it. That to me is like the best way if you have the budget to do that. If you're not talking about trademarking, I would just be very careful. You certainly can launch a brand as a generic brand. And typically, I don't think you even need to provide Amazon a picture of your brand name on the product. I could be wrong on that, but last I checked, you just need to provide them with a UPC barcode or something like that to get a GTIN exemption. For more information on that, I'm going to type in real quick to our Jungle Scout blog, GTIN, And yeah, here we go. How to list products on Amazon without a GTIN or UPC. So I'd check out this blog here. We have some other articles that can probably give you more insight as well. But definitely recommend do a little more research on that, especially if you're not getting it trademarked. All right. Okay. Cool. Mohammed asks, how long does it take to register your brand when doing private label or when launching first private label? Can I start with my own brand name? So to register your brand through a trademark, if that's what your question is about, when I did it, so I used the IP Accelerator program, which means once I submitted my application with the trademark attorneys, I was approved to use Amazon Brand Registry right away. So from filing the paperwork to getting all the benefits that Brand Registry offers, that took me, I want to say 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks. But the cool thing about the IP Accelerator program is these trademark offices, excuse me, are like tied into Amazon. So they just send it over to Amazon ASAP once they get the information. And so that's why it's really quick that you can get the Brand Registry benefits right away. Excuse me. So that's what I did. It took me about 3 weeks to get it. And then the trademark came back like a year later, or even a year and a half later of being approved. But because I went through the IP Accelerator program, I got all the benefits before that happened. But that was the timeline for me, about 3 weeks. Okay. Let's see. Sorry, I'm scanning, trying to find the questions. Okay, so this is talking about keywords. I have used low rank keywords, but it's not working, and my product is not ranking on those. What can I do? So yeah, it's definitely a long game. If you're using long tail keywords, like I mentioned earlier, which are keyword phrases that have, typically at least 4 words in them, it's going to take a while to rank on those organically. One, because the search volume is typically low, which means less people are searching for it. So it's just going to take you more time to kind of continue to get out in front of people, continue to hopefully get clicks, continue to hopefully get conversions, and then hopefully rank in the long run. But that doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't take a week. In most cases, it takes maybe multiple weeks to start to see your organic rankings improved, and you're also your sponsored rankings as well. So the best kind of prescription here is to keep going. You can still optimize your advertising campaigns, but just keep going, because if you give up now, then it's like that classic like meme where you're digging and digging and you're almost there at the gold, but if you would have kept going, you would have cracked it. So for me, I think from my experience, climbing up the organic ranks it takes time. Amazon just wants to know that you're going to make them money. And so you basically have to prove that to them time and time again. And if you get 1 or 2 sales today, Amazon's not that impressed until you kind of do that 1 or 2 sales every single day and you keep growing and growing and growing. And they're like, hey, what's this product doing? They're kind of climbing the ranks a little bit. So that's what I would do, is just give it a little bit of time. And hopefully, if you stay at it and it's a relevant keyword phrase for you, then you will see your ranks improve. All right. So I don't know if you guys saw that. I did a little zoom. Stupid. Okay. Yeah, a lot of people are asking about AGL. We definitely want to do more on this. This is one of these content topics that unfortunately we can't just like hit record and just like make a video right away, because we want to come from experience and have data to back it up. So working in the AGL is like actually going through and getting these orders takes time, because we need to wait for our inventory to sell out, our current inventory to order an AGL. And then also, it just like takes time for us. So like we definitely want to do more content on this. This is highly requested. So we will do it once we have enough kind of orders to like speak from experience, rather than just talking high level. We want to come at you with some actual experience. So stay tuned for that. It's a good question, because this could be similar for a lot of sellers. Curious about expiration dates, best buy labels for beauty items, specifically size requirements of the font? Do you have any insight on these? I don't have any specific insights for like the font size, but the requirements of that type of stuff are going to be very hyper specific to that product. And again, Amazon, well, that was weird. Amazon has a lot of nuances in the different types of products. So like grocery is going to be different than beauty. So I'd read through Amazon's help articles. The first party help articles from Amazon are always going to be better than third party. Now, sites like Jungle Scout have really good information and we digest it to be more readable. So I would also check out that as well, use other third-party articles, but then always refer to Amazon's very specific verbiage on what to expect and what you need for certain products. But unfortunately, I just don't have any experience in the beauty category. Not my forte. This is a product research question. Okay, so how to look for products. It seems every category has a lot of competition. You're absolutely right. I'm struggling to narrow down a product I want to sell. So what I'll say first is everybody's got a different point of view, and I'm only able to share my point of view, and that's backed by just some experience launching products, being with other people helping them launch their products, and I've seen a lot of different strategies and kind of concerns going into the product research process. I will say and empathize with you that there's competition everywhere. And now that we're in 2024, I honestly don't look at competition the same way I did in the past. In the past, I would look for low to medium competition and try to stay on the low side. Now I'm trying to more so shift that mindset of how I interpret competition. For me, competition now means, is it almost like impossible for a new seller to launch and get sales? Basically, in other words, are the top brands dominating? Or are some of like these lower, like no-name sellers popping into the category every couple of years or every year, and they're getting reviews and they're getting sales? Like, are they actually doing pretty well? They don't need to be like in first place. Like, they don't need to be capturing 20% market share in their first year. But I essentially just want to find out when I'm launching a new product, are there new sellers that have consistently launched and done pretty well? And so what I'm essentially doing is, I can show this real quick actually. Kind of go back to my Pooper Scooper page here. Here is a page, Dog Pooper Scoopers. I'm gonna open up the extension, and what I'm looking for are a few things. So this date first available column is showing you all the products on this, or listings that launched and like when they launched. And then I'm looking at the number of reviews they have, and then the monthly sales. So my like minimum threshold for a high demand product is 300 monthly sales. For everybody, that's different, but for us at Jungle Scout, we like to use 300 as a bare minimum. And so what I'm going to do is look, okay, so 2023, this product launched, they have 578 reviews, and they're crushing it in sales. Now, it's a lot of sales. So what I would bet is happening, if you go to this product here, they have variations. And so, yeah, they probably do. So I guarantee this other product was launched way before 2023, and then they added this different color onto it. So that could skew the data a little bit. You got to be careful just looking at these numbers. But what I would do maybe to like make this quicker for me is go date first available, and then only look at the products that were launched in the past 2 years. And now that's going to bring my list down to 24 products here. And then to get rid of these products with like high reviews, that probably weren't launched within 2 years, I'm just going to add like, a lowish number, 300. You can play around with this. So now I'm seeing 8 products. Let's go to one that has 87 reviews here, launched last year in 2023, middle of the year, doing about 404 monthly units. If I go to the listing, cool, one variation. This is probably definitely a product that, so as you can see here, when they launched, I'm looking at the monthly data. I'll get rid of the buy box price, the rank. So I'm just looking at unit sales. They first launched the first month, 140, 260. Yep. And now they're above that 300 mark. And yeah, so that's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm trying to find multiple of these products, and then I add them into a list. So you can come here, you can click add, and now add it to a product tracker group. So that's how I define competition now, is really just like, how can I possibly gauge whether or not new sellers are coming in and being successful, rather than the number of reviews or something else to gauge competition. That's just, again, my perspective. Are others sort of paving the path for me to launch a new product and be successful? hopefully that was helpful. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to. Data, if you're still in here, absolutely bless Amazon, the warehouse system. I pay the fees gladly. That's a really good mindset. Glass half full type of guy. That's exactly how I am. It obviously, like, nobody likes paying the fees, especially when Amazon increases them almost every year. But we wouldn't be where we're at without Amazon allowing us to kind of just be operators or brand owners rather than operators. So I'm with you there. Hudson asks a really good question. What are the key factors that Amazon considers critical to providing an exceptional customer experience? So Amazon, so what do they consider an exceptional customer experience? If you're not using FBA, shipping is absolutely like up there as like one of the top ones. If you're promising people 2-day delivery and it gets there in 3 or 4 on average, that's going to be a very, very bad sign that you don't provide good experience. But for those doing FBA, the best considerations here are there's 2 types of reviews that you can get, and a lot of consumers don't even understand what they're doing sometimes. But there's product reviews that you're most familiar with when you are reading a product and looking at the reviews. But there's also I'm probably gonna say this wrong, but like brand reviews or company reviews where it's on your page. I will show you that here. I'll just click on this product here. And so as opposed to product reviews that come up here, and they're now called ratings. If I go here to Sold by Woot, which is an Amazon brand, you see these reviews right here. So these are company reviews. And so this is a pretty good indicator of your company's feedback from that Amazon can look into. So right here, they're 95% positive in the past 12 months. So this is a good example because let's open up the buy box here. Great. So this is a product that you could probably wholesale, right? Because there's a lot of different sellers, as you can see here in the buy box. That seller, sold by that seller, and sold by, I don't know why my screen's not going down enough, but yeah, so essentially, if you have bad reviews, like you see here, this guy is 92% positive, and let's say the next seller is 100% positive. He only has 2 ratings though. So if you're underneath here, let's say you have like a 3-star company rating, Amazon's less likely to put you in the buy box. And so that's a very, very good indicator that Amazon's looking at in terms of like how to rank you based on your customer experience. So to me, I think reviews is the best thing to consider. Try to always improve your reviews on both the product side and the company side. And you can ask for those reviews too. You can leave a product insert and ask people to leave you a company review. Maybe your company reviews have been poor. Instead of getting a product review, you can ask them to shift to a company review. But yeah, I think there's way more. But to me, those are like the best KPIs to try to improve is the product and the company reviews. Yes, so if you're applying for Amazon B2B, you can use your business name and email address. You can actually just use your same Seller Central account. It keeps it easier and simple for tax purposes. So Amazon B2B, for those who don't know, on the seller side, you can obviously sell it to B2B buyers. But as a consumer, when you buy things on Amazon for your business, you can deduct those in your taxes. So I like to just keep it under my same selling account that I use for my brand. So I almost just like add it on rather than creating a whole new account. It just keeps the finances super simple and streamlined come tax time. Dustin asks, if you have a trademark and get brand registry, is there still a discount on FBA fees? So there's no discount you would get by having brand registry or a trademark, unfortunately. Yeah, unfortunately, that would be cool. But no, there's no benefit for Amazon since they're not actually providing you the legal team. They're actually just outsourcing other trademark offices that they trust to do the work for you. So they're not actually getting anything in return. So they're not going to give us any discounts, unfortunately. But good question. So this is a good question, and hopefully it resonates with a lot of people. So he's asking about launching a new product with about 8 to 10K. Is that basically like a good to start with? Absolutely. we like to say that you need at least $3,000 to start, and that's like a ideal case scenario. But you don't need $3,000 to start. 2,000. It's very arbitrary. The ideal way to launch is to buy enough inventory to last a couple months, and then have enough money left over to like either use in advertising, to use on the second round inventory or whatever. But if you're tied money wise, you can always order 100 units, launch it, sell out, use that money to buy your next order, maybe 200 units, sell it, sell out, use that $200 you got back, whatever, buy 300 units. You can do that. It's not like ideal, but it's better than doing nothing. It's better than just waiting and staring at your product forever, because then when you do have the money to launch it, that product and that niche could be totally different. So I always recommend to start no matter how much you have. Ideally, you maybe have at least $1,000. But in this case, $8,000 to $10,000 is perfect. If you actually watch one of our later or one of our older videos, I'll try to find it here for you real quick. I think we actually launched with around $8,000, and that includes like our legal fees too. We did a bunch of things. We got like a trademark, we got brand registry. Let's see if I can find this video real quick. Yeah, so I think this is it. So is Amazon worth it in 2023? We answer it there. I think we actually have a few more videos on that. Might be in our live tab. Amazon test? Yeah, I think that's it right here. Under 10K Amazon product launch. We have a few videos that talk about it, but yes, 8 to 10K to answer your question is a great amount to start with. Hey, Catherine. Yes, you can absolutely, you and your husband, use Jungle Scout at the same time under the same membership. You can just share the login with each other, and that works perfectly as well. If you need more seats, if you have a team, then you can always upgrade and add more seats depending on your plan. But yes, you can both use your Jungle Scout account. At the same time is a good question. I've never tested that, but you should be able to do it. I don't know. It's a good question. You have to test that for me and get back to me with that. I love this question. Explain like I'm 5 how to deal with suppliers from Alibaba, like if I want to make modifications to the product. Okay, like you're 5. Go in Alibaba, contact the find suppliers that are trustworthy. Trustworthy means they have a couple years of experience shipping products to your country. Reach out to them, ask them if they customize their products. If they don't, say goodbye to them. Go to the next suppliers that you're on your list. If they can customize it, ask them what customizations are they able to make, basically what machines or what kind of capabilities they have. Some will say we can only kind of change the colors, or we can only change the size, but some will say, oh, we can imprint, or we can add, we can kind of like do whatever you want. And so try to find a supplier that has customization capabilities that you need. Send them a email with a picture of what you want done. So a lot of suppliers want like a drawing done. You could hire somebody on Fiverr to do a drawing for you. And that really just kind of visualizes to the supplier exactly what you're thinking about. If your product doesn't exist already, like that type of modification doesn't exist, have them send you a picture of what it could look like or a sample of it. If you like that, order that sample, just like that one sample. They send it to you. Hopefully you like it. You tell them, let's make 1,000 of these puppies. So hopefully that answers it like you're 5. I hope that did it. But basically you just need to figure out what abilities the supplier has. And then you really need to like visualize and make it easy for them to understand what you're talking about. Once they understand that, you need to get a picture, a sample, and go from there. You can always keep modifying if it didn't work out the first time. But that's kind of like the long about way of doing the modifications. So do you need to purchase a UPC barcode on a product that's already sold? So yeah, if you're doing private label every product on Amazon needs a UPC barcode. Now, that UPC barcode is only there to give you an FN SKU barcode. The FN SKU barcode is an Amazon barcode that you place on your product. And the benefit of that, to answer your second part here, is let's say somebody were to sell your product as well. And typically these are hijackers. Somebody who got a hold of your inventory for some reason and they send it into Amazon, and now there's a second seller on your listing. Your FNSKU barcode should be different than theirs. So their UPC barcode, going back to the UPC for a second, is get the FNSKU barcode, and that protects your inventory from anybody else's looking to sell your product. So they call it commingling inventory. An FNSKU barcode helps avoid that. So you do need, Amazon requires a UPC barcode for any product to be listed on Amazon. If it doesn't have one already, not sure how that's the case. Certainly there could be instances where that does happen, but you still will need a UPC barcode for the product being sold. And again, that's just to get you to get the FNSKU barcode from Amazon. We have some pretty good content on this. If you head over to our Jungle Scout YouTube channel, and it's actually in our How to Sell on Amazon video, or you can go to this How to Sell on Amazon series here, and in the barcode explain section, Lenny does a really good job of sort of explaining the process of like what you need, why you need it, how to get it. And so you can watch that video when you have some time. Awesome. Okay. Let's see here. Thank you guys for the questions, by the way. This is really fun, and I hope you're enjoying this live Q&A. Again, we're going to do it every week. You can always continue asking your question in the comments here or in the chat, but then after this video ends in a little bit, you can carry them over. If maybe I missed it or just wasn't able to get all the questions, you can carry those questions over into the comment section. And just like I did at the start of this video, we will bring that into the next video next week as pre-submitted questions. Also, another way that you can ask questions or just engage with us in general are in this community tab here. Hopefully we'll see it on your homepage, but we're going to be asking questions in here too. So you can always submit questions in the community tab and hang out with us. We're typically give away a bunch of cool insights and resources here that we don't typically put in video. So just a few ways that you can ask questions and engage with us further here on YouTube. Okay. It's a good question. How can I check how many sales I will need to rank a keyword on the first page? So that's a really good question that I can answer by showing you. So inside Keyword Scout, what you can do, I will just type, use one of my recent searches, Washable Pee Pads for Dogs. And what you can do, and this is always going to be estimated. There's no like real binary way to get the exact number because Amazon's so dynamic and nobody has the secrets that Amazon knows. But Jungle Scouts engineers have been working at this for years, and they've kind of done, I think, the best job at trying to estimate this for sellers. So you come down here to these keywords, and let's go washable pee pads for dogs, for example. If I scroll over, you will see recommended promotions. So as it says here, I'll scroll in or zoom in. This is the estimated number of daily promotions required. Daily promotions is another word for sales. The estimated number of sales required to reach a top 3 ranking in 7 to 14 days. So if you go 1 to 2 weeks consistently selling, in this case, 41 units every single day for 2 weeks, you could most likely or hopefully rank in the top 3. And again, this is all estimates. But basically what this is sort of going off of is a lot of things. So like the search volume is a pretty good indicator of competition. It's also using the product count. So this is basically how many products there are organically ranking on Amazon for this keyword. So there's a lot of people showing up for that. Now with sponsored ads, there's only 36 people bidding on that keyword typically. Or if you do a search for that keyword, there's typically 36 spots on the page. So not 36 people, but 36 spots on the page. And that gives you this ease to rank column. So this is easy compared to maybe something that's a little more difficult, like very difficult here. So there's a lot of like different things that go into this, but recommended promotions is a pretty good column to figure out kind of what it takes to get there. And again, this is top 3. Top 3 is a pretty good spot to be in. A lot of products aren't consistently getting that for a lot of their keywords, but you might be able to get there with like 1 or 2 keywords at the start, and then eventually you're able to get more keywords in the top 3, or maybe you're in the top 10. So like if you think about it, 41 daily sales to get in the top 3, you can probably just estimate or guess yourself. If you do like 20 of that, you can maybe get in the top 10 or top 20. So I would use that column kind of as an indicator to help figure out how many sales you'll need to rank on the first page of Amazon. Good question. Okay. Oh, cool. Okay. Yes. So great question. Thanks for joining. I'm always seeing it in our comments and in our live streams. So great question, though. The question here is like, is it okay to get samples from a brand to have the product photography and video done along with infographics via Fiverr, Upworks? So yeah, there's, I guess, 2 ways to answer this. I'm curious if you're coming from the perspective of private label or wholesale. So I guess really with both, though, it's definitely okay to do this. In fact, just to give you kind of a background of what I've done is when I first ordered my latest product or was going to sell it or launch it, I asked my supplier to send me a sample of what I was going to be selling. And they sent me, I think, like 2 or 3 units of it. And then I immediately like tested that out myself and just like looked at it for just like my purposes. And then I sent those units over to my photographer, and they took all the photos. They, based on like what I told them to do, but they were able to work with those samples in their photography. And then actually did a video as well. So they did a video mostly using the product, some animations, but that was a really good strategy for me to kind of get them to get images before my actual inventory came in, because while they were working on the photography, the brand or the supplier that I was working with was going to be sending all the inventory to me, and that was going to take 2 to 3 months. So it was enough time for the photographers to get all the product photography done. So I'm not waiting around to have that done. And then like using Fiverr, Upwork, I just use the photographer to do all that for me, but you certainly could use a site like Fiverr, Upwork, or 99 Designs. It would be a more premium option to do any type of branding or design for you with those samples. Absolutely. Good question. Be curious to know a little more context to this question on Amazon. On number of sellers, sometimes I see Amazon 11, and I'm curious if you're referring to in our product database tool, or maybe it's the opportunity finder tool. If I just kind of just type in something here, just to get some products up here. If you see, so there's a column here that says number of sellers. That is such a dynamic thing, especially for wholesale products, where if this says 11 right now, tomorrow it might say 5. So right here, sellers, you see, this is a listing that has 2 sellers on it, and the buy box owner is Amazon warehouse. So down here, you see a bunch of 1s. Those are probably private label products because there's only 1 seller in there. Right here, 5. Okay, so there's 5 sellers selling this hat. Typically, you can see this last updated column here is telling you when it was updated last. So you just kind of got to check that and make sure, because, like I said, Amazon's constantly changing. Like, one of these sellers could drop out tonight or tomorrow, but I do see there's 5 sellers in this buy box. So hopefully that helps answer your question. Yeah. Okay. Oh, great. Thank you, Data. Django Scout is priceless and must have for anyone starting. Also, I forgot to mention, if you're watching this live, we have an amazing deal right now. It's in the description below, and it expires, I believe, at the end of this month, so at the end of January. It's our New Year's deal. And so if you go to the link in the description, which I'm going to pull up here, where is it? You'll get access to that deal. Sorry, 1 second. Let me try to find that. And I'm sure you can get to it faster than what I'm trying to do right now. But yeah, so recommend checking out this deal that we have over on Jungle Scout. So it's going to give you up to 56% off our Suite Annual plus Freedom Builder Bootcamp. You can also do our Suite Annual, which is our most popular option, or you can do Suite 3 months if you just kind of want to test it out for 3 months. But you're still getting insane deals right now. FBB, for those who don't know, is a guided educational kind of like course with taught by Greg Mercer. He's the founder and CEO of Jungle Scout, like an Amazon OG, and he's going to teach you everything he knows about selling on Amazon through modules. So you see like, getting started, product research, just taking you the whole way through launching a product and growing it to 6 or 7 figures in revenue. So this is an awesome material that you get basically for free when you get the Suite Annual. So 12 months of Suite plan plus the Freedom Builder Bootcamp, and you see how much you're saving on that. So highly recommend checking out the link in the description to get the best deal on Jungle Scout before it runs out, which again, I think is the end of this month in January. Does Jungle Scout have data for other countries? Yes, we do. So when you're in Jungle Scout, most tools will have like a drop down here. So your question was about India. Yes, we do. You can go to India here. And now whenever you search products or whatever you're doing here, it's going to look at India's marketplace. So the data will be coming from that marketplace, not whatever, we were on the US originally. So you can certainly look through all these different countries here. And then also a lot of people, what they like to do, and you see how like the currency changes too. So you know that it's actually in that country. But a lot of times what people do is they'll stick on the United States to gauge overall demand. Now, certainly there's a lot of differences between cultures and buying behaviors and trends, but a lot of people may be selling in Canada or the UK. They'll still use the US data, and they'll use that in unison with their country's data, or they'll just use the US data to launch in other markets because they know that there's a lot of data built into the US, much more than some of the other markets. So there's a little bit more data confidence, if that makes sense, in the United States, just because there's more people buying, shopping, searching, and stuff like that. But great question. So, let's answer a few more. Also, how's everybody doing so far? I need to stop and slow down more and just maybe have some fun. If you have any feedback about like this series, again, we want to do this every single week with you guys live. Answer all your questions, just hang out with you. Let us know. Like, should we have background music going on? Should I be standing? Should I don't know, shave my mustache? No, I won't do that. Yeah, let me know how you're doing, then let me know kind of if there's anything else you want us to do in these weekly Q&As. As I look for some more questions. I think background music would help because I'm like looking for these questions live, and I'm like, oh gosh, it's so quiet. I need to jam in the background. All right, Nancy asked, if you have 2 products in a similar niche, would it make sense to combine them and make them variations? It does if the data is telling you that people want both of those things. So what I mean by that is if you're going to a product, let me just get one up here, classic pooper scooper, and you scroll down, you see, okay, people that buy pooper scoopers, and I would do this for multiple products, not just this one, are also buying these, okay, waste bags. That makes sense. And then maybe even from here, you can kind of go down the rabbit hole of, okay, waste bags. Okay, yep, they're buying pooper scoopers. They're buying other waste bags. Okay. And you can kind of look at like these frequently bought with together. You can look at the advertising rows here because Amazon knows what people are buying once they come to this page. And Amazon would not be putting these ads here if people historically didn't click on them and buy them. So this is really good, like free data that you can use. And you can also use customer review insights for that. So like if you go to the reviews, and again, Jungle Scout has a tool called review analysis that can help you with this as well. But you can kind of like read through these reviews. Sometimes images are good, and you can see people using multiple tools at once. So like sometimes you might see here, even that product itself has a pooper scooper in it. But reading customer reviews is another good way to figure out if people want the 2 things at once. But absolutely, if you see the trends that, people are buying these 2 types of products together, if you add them together, assuming that's going to be a better deal than buying them separately, I think it's a really good way of going about it. Like I said earlier, improving the product in any way, ideally functionally, But if you can't do a functional improvement, the next best way, in my opinion, is to do something that makes it easier for the customers. So like combining two products, like you said. So yeah, I think it's a great way to differentiate your product. And maybe there's people who have already done that and you can see if they're doing pretty well or if they're not doing well because maybe the product price is too high. Actually, you know what? In this example, I would have to look into it more, but so these bags are like $7. People probably just want the bags. Now for the people buying pooper scoopers, it looks like you can get them for like $30. Assuming you can get the bags added to this product relatively cheap and not really driving up the price too much, I do think it would be a good idea. But yeah, if you're selling bags, maybe adding the pooper scooper could be a good idea. So just like, yeah, dig in, see if the product is, being bought in a bundle. If it's not, then just make sure that you're not like charging too much for that bundle. And hopefully they're saving money by having you bundle it for them. Interesting question. Yeah. So when maybe I'll bring up the next question or the other question they had right underneath that. When preparing Amazon SEO for the US market, can we write in Spanish product descriptions for A+ products to reach Hispanic customers? Good question. You could. If it's in the US market, I wouldn't, because you're in the US market. If you were gonna, launch in this, in Mexico or any other market, Southern American market, then I would just do all that content in those markets. So obviously changing the copy for them. But what you can do is you can, in the back end, so like when in your A+ images, you can use alt text and you can use your Spanish keywords there. You can use Spanish keywords also in your back end search terms and when you're editing the listing. And that will help Amazon associate your product with those keywords. But really, I guess I would ask first, like, do you think the majority of people browsing in the US marketplace are Spanish speakers? Because if you go that route, you're totally alienating anybody else who is non-Spanish speaking. So I would actually speak to the market that you're launching in and sort of have things on the back end speaking to the algorithm in Spanish so that they can pick up whenever customers, Spanish speaking customers, are typing that into Amazon. I don't think there's probably, and I'm curious if Amazon actually has rules against that. So about like using different language in the market. So again, I would just kind of put all that in the back end. I'm not a tax professional, but if you're living in Australia and you're selling in the US, you would have to pay both, I think. This is where Lenny would come in handy because he's Australian. He's sold in a different country that he's lived in. But from my research, I think you would have to pay both taxes, but I could be wrong on that. Yeah. I want to be notified for the next videos. Well, you can also just hit that, I think it's like get notified button on this video, and you can get notified when we go live. I know a lot of people probably don't see our videos. We try to like put them up like a couple hours early before we go live. But if you click get notified, get notified whenever that does come up. Okay. Good question. Do you see Amazon FBA still being viable 10 years from now? Or would Amazon just get rid of the middleman, which I assume is like the third-party sellers, and get manufacturers to sell on their own? I definitely think it's still viable, and it's going to be viable in 10 years. The reason why is because just think about like everyone growing up now. They're only buying on Amazon. Am I 30? Am I turning 30 this year? I'm turning 30 this year. I'm going to go over the hill. But I've been buying on Amazon my entire life, most of my life. But everybody now who's like 15, 20, whatever, they've only known Amazon. And they're probably going to buy on Amazon until they have kids. And so I totally still think Amazon's the best place to launch a new product because it's where people are doing their shopping. I don't see that changing overnight. I don't see that changing in 10 years. Now, in terms of your second question, would they get rid of the middleman? Absolutely not. Third-party sellers is what makes Amazon great. If Amazon just had big manufacturers in there, there would be no competition. There would be a lot higher prices. There would be less products to choose from. There'd be less innovation. There would be less there for the customers to buy on Amazon. It would make Amazon nothing more than just a retail store, a physical store. And that's not fun. People like to go on Amazon to buy all type of things. They like to buy the cheapest product sometimes. They like to buy the funniest product sometimes. They like to have options. And if you look at the data, Jungle Scout has some amazing data on this in our reports. But third-party sellers, which are people like you and I, make up the majority of Amazon sales and sellers. So I don't think Amazon's going to get rid of us anytime soon because we're so integral to their business model. And I just think that's the way it's going to go. In fact, I think it's just we're going to continually to take over these bigger brands, because for every like one major brand that's launching a new product today, there's probably 100 new third-party sellers launching alongside them. So long answer short, I think we're going to be okay in 10 years from now. It's a good question. If you go with Amazon FBM, so fulfilling your own products, will you get lower traffic than going FBA? If you're doing wholesale, so if you're competing for the buy box, I don't think there's like any literature where Amazon says this, but I just through experience and I think so a little bit. Like Amazon would rather promote an FBA offer because customers like seeing that Prime badge. It instills confidence in them that they're going to have a good experience with the shipping and just the product themselves. Now, for the private label side of it, I think it's the same situation, but it's not really like Amazon throttling you because you're FBM. I think it's more so just like that psychology of a consumer seeing a Prime badge versus a product that doesn't say Prime. So like if you were doing your own shopping and you're going to buy a product and you're looking at the search results, you're most likely to click on the Prime badge one. Most people would be that way. And so, if you're FBM, you might be thinking, oh, Amazon's not showing me enough. I'm not getting that many clicks. It's probably more related to, you just not getting that many clicks from the conversion perspective, right? Of people not wanting to click your product versus Amazon not showing your product. I don't think if your product sells, regardless of FBA or FBM, Amazon doesn't care. They just want to put the best products in front of customers based on the history of these search terms and if people are buying that type of product. If you're consistently selling a product under X keyword, Amazon doesn't care if you're FBA or FBM. I would still always go FBA for the reason of just like the human psychology. But again, that's just like my experience and my opinion. But FBM is a great way to sell a product. You can also have two going at the same time. You can sell FBA and then maybe sell out and do FBM. You can test it for a couple months and see how that goes. So feel free to test it if you're trying to figure out maybe there's a better way to sell and that works better for you. It's maybe less expensive. So I would maybe test out as much as I can. Okay, we're going to answer a few more questions because we're going to wrap up here shortly, going on an hour and a half. But again, we're going to be doing this every week. Next week, we'll have another live Q&A that you can submit questions ahead of time or join us for the live Q&A as well. But I'll get to a few more here. Lenny in the chat. I feel like I heard Lenny in the studio. He was away, but I think or in the office. Lenny, if you're listening to this, I know you're here. What percentage of my initial budget should I spend on buying inventory for my first product? It's a good question. There's probably is like a good best practice here. Like I probably should say like a 30, 40, whatever percent. But it's so dynamic, and I personally have done so many different allocations myself that to me, I prioritize the inventory first. So inventory first, make sure I have enough money to order however long I want to stay in stock for. So maybe, I like to stay in stock for 3 months. Now, how do you know how long you need to stay in stock for? You just kind of like look at new sellers and how much they're able to sell in their first, 3 months and say, okay, they sold like 600 units in 3 months. And that's like the average of all these new sellers. I should probably be in that same range or maybe go a little bit lower. And so that's where my money goes. That's my first priority. The second priority is anything that would help me sell that product. So, images is like, I will never spare a dollar on images. Images are so important. Videos are so important. Those are my two biggest allocations. And then from there, if I have anything left over, it's advertising. So it's not really answering your question on the head of like a 30%, 40%, whatever, but I just like to have a priority list of inventory, images, and then advertising as a nice to have. You still can advertise, with no money set aside for it. You basically are just hoping that you sell more than you're spending, because Amazon was take it out of your account. But ideally, you would have some money like set aside for advertising in case you go in the negative. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Okay. Question. What labels would I need to put on my packaging when doing just FBM? Do I still need to FNSKU? No. If you're fulfilling your own orders, UPC barcode will work perfectly fine. The FNSKU barcode is really only for Amazon's purposes. The warehouse workers, they're going to scan that barcode and say, that's Jake's inventory, not John's inventory. But if you're not sending into FBA and you're doing your own fulfillment, whether it's through you actually doing it or you hired a third-party fulfillment company to do it for you, a UPC barcode is fine. In fact, you can send your UPC barcode product into Amazon. It's just a little more risky because, like I said earlier, it doesn't protect you in case someone else tries to sell your product too, because maybe they messed up your product, but they sent it into Amazon, so it looks like your product. So to answer your question, a UPC barcode would work just fine. Good question. Squid Gaming with the Barack Obama profile picture. That's awesome. How critical / worthwhile is it to get your product launched quickly? 40 to 50 days versus something like 90 days. And I assume maybe you're thinking of like, I guess there's like two ways to interpret this. Like from like, I'm going to go with what I think you're talking about here, which is like 40, 50 day, like should you go like all out on those 40, 50 days, like more aggressive versus like slowing it down, allowing yourself 90 days or 3 months to kind of like launch your product and maybe slow your ad spend to like hold for those 90 days rather than like selling out in the first 40, 50 days. I'll say both are great. There's no way that's better than the other. I personally like the more aggressive way. I'm okay with selling out when I first launch my product because there aren't going to be brand loyal customers yet. They're like, oh, why is Jake selling out? They're not going to be like, oh, no, Jake's product's not available. But like after a year or two, you might have people that are subscribe and save members or people that are actually love your brand that don't want you to sell out because they want to keep buying your products or especially if your product can be, bought multiple times, not just a one-off purchase. But in the beginning, I don't really care too much about selling out. I try to avoid it as much as I can. But me personally, I want to go from A to Z as fast as I can. Just because my whole goal is once I get to like 50 reviews or 100 reviews, ideally, I can slowly start to turn things back and become more profitable because my conversion rate is better. So hopefully that makes sense. To me, it's more so just like, how can I get to 100 reviews as fast as possible? Again, just my experience. So this is a good question. You see that AI bots catch on to keywords used in the listing and can flag the listing. Where can I find a list of keywords that are restricted? Good question. I'm sure Amazon has. I feel like I've seen one. If you just type in on Amazon or Google Amazon Seller Central restricted keywords list, it's probably very obvious which those keywords are. Just think like, is that keyword vital to your product? Like, is it actually describing the product? If it's not, then be very careful because you want to have relevant keywords in your listing. You do want to have the highest volume keywords in your listing, but if it's not relevant, don't include it. It's not going to help if Amazon's accidentally ranking you for a keyword just because you have it in your listing. So be careful if your keywords are not like are obviously like on the edge of like acceptable, and just look it up on Amazon. And a lot of times you will get flagged for it. So if that comes up, you shouldn't be suspended your first try. So if that comes up, you can always just cut it out, or open a case with Amazon and they'll tell you exactly kind of like what they saw and like why you need to get rid of it. So yeah, just be careful with any keywords that seem edgy or on the border there. Oh, thank you, Michael. Taxes depend on what country your company is registered in. Awesome. Talk to an accountant. That's exactly the advice that we give on this channel because not a law guy. So no, you absolutely don't need an LLC. If you have the funds available, it's great to do it because it protects you. So like if you're going to sell in the US from Pakistan, a LLC I think would still be helpful in case a US customer wants to do anything or take any legal action. But it's a good question that, again, I'm not the best person to answer on in terms of the legalities of being in a different country, and maybe someone tries to sue you, but your country is located in Pakistan. Is that do you need an LLC to protect you? I don't know that answer. I would do a little more digging there, but that would be why I would assume LLC would be good, because it protects you from the customers that you're selling in that market. I think, yeah, not a legal professor by any means. I wish I was though, because that would probably make me a lot of money. Okay, a few more questions here. Yes, so when writing keywords on your listing, try to avoid repeating the same keyword. There's no SEO value from Amazon in repeating the same keyword. Once you have it once, so ideally in your title, if it's a really important keyword, you don't have to repeat it anywhere else. Now, certainly feel free to repeat it if it makes sense in your writing. You don't want to just like always avoid that keyword that you already have once, but Amazon's smart enough to take that one keyword and they index you for it, and they don't need it to be like hammered into them 100 times in order to be indexed for it, or in order to index you for it. So yeah, just try not to repeat keywords, because then you can just use that space for new keywords and get indexed for more. But good question. That's definitely a popular question and something that I've always wondered when I first started as well. Can you just tell us your top 5 PPC tips and tricks for boosting our sales? Top 5, in no order, and hopefully I'm on the spot here, so hopefully this is my top 5. Sponsor brand video campaigns, or video campaigns in general. Do those. Get a bunch of videos, launch a bunch of sponsored brand video campaigns, and keep testing. Use keywords, use ASINs, use anything. Make a bunch of videos, make a bunch of campaigns, and those are awesome. ASIN targeting. I said that earlier in the beginning of this video, but ASIN targeting is great. At least in my experience, it's very profitable. And for me, it just does really, really well. ASIN targeting. Test new campaign types. Always test. If you have the budget available, test sponsored display campaigns, test different keywords, test different targeting types, like or bidding types, even bidding up and down, bidding down only, fixed bids. Again, like testing different campaign types even within sponsored display. So always test. Number 4 would be to always keep an automatic campaign on. And the reason I like that is to like discover new keywords. So this is like a hot debate. I think it's always been a hot debate. Should you negate a keyword from your automatic campaign when you bring it over into a manual campaign? I used to do that. I used to take a keyword, dog pads, in the automatic campaign and negate it when I brought it to a manual campaign. I actually have stopped doing that because I found that sometimes if you just let Amazon bid on that keyword for you in an automatic campaign, they do a little bit better than your manual targeting keyword can do. It's weird, but for some reason, again, just my personal experience, I found that to be the case. So that's why I always keep an automatic campaign on, or it's another reason why. Again, to like find new keywords to funnel into my manual campaigns or ASINs. And 2, just to like kind of let Amazon do the bidding potentially more efficient than me. Advertising or automatic. The 5th one, use custom creatives, use custom images, use custom, obviously videos are pretty custom, but custom images are very helpful with sponsored brand ads or sponsored display campaigns. So you don't have, actually, I think they just changed it where with some campaigns, you actually have to use a custom image. But before, and for some campaign types, you don't have to use a custom image. Amazon will just like kind of take your main image and make an ad out of it. But if you use a custom image, you can target more specific. So for example, a keyword that you're bidding on, washable pee pads for dogs, right? The keyword washable there in your custom image, you can show not just like your main image, but you can show like your product being washed or thrown into a washing machine. And it really connects better with customers that are looking for that type of benefit or that type of feature. And they see that rather than just seeing your main image. And then they have to read your title to figure out that it's washable. So that would be my fifth one, is to use custom images and target very specifically based on which keywords you're bidding on. Cool. Cool. Good question. Just got started in the e-commerce world. I want to start things off and get some experience without spending any money. It's awesome. What is the best way for me to gain experience and learn e-com? So yeah, two different ways of learning. Obviously, you can learn by watching videos like you're doing now, live content. You can watch any type of pre-recorded content on YouTube. We have a lot of great content you can learn for free, of course. Jungle Scout is like the leader in free educational content. We do have an academy. If you're a Jungle Scout user, and this obviously isn't a free thing, but we have an academy here where you can learn even more about Jungle Scout and selling on Amazon. And this kind of leads me into like the second way of learning is through experience. So you don't have to launch a product to learn, even though in my opinion, that's the best way of learning is to launch a product and then go through the motions, because once you do that, I mean, your learning will accelerate exponentially. Like you'll learn so much in such a short period of time. You'll be like, why didn't I do this sooner? Now I know that doesn't answer your question, but another way of learning is to, basically just like go through the motions. Like this isn't free, but like if you use Jungle Scout, which we have an amazing deal right now. I mentioned this earlier in the description. We have a deal going on at Jungle Scout where you're gonna get some pretty good deals on our plans. But you can go through the motions, follow along in our videos of finding good products to sell on Amazon. And you can learn that way. But if you just want like the best and free way of learning, it would just be here on YouTube. You don't need to pay for any courses. Like I said, Jungle Scout has some pretty amazing deals, and we actually give you a course called the Freedom Builder Bootcamp with it. That's a great way of learning, but if you just want the best way of learning for free, it's right here on YouTube, I think. I'm like really big on free education. I think it's people that sell courses, like I'm sure they have a reason for doing it, and they're really good courses, I'm sure, but you can get so much of the content for free on YouTube. All right. Cool. So yeah, a couple more questions and we're gonna wrap it up. Does attribution links, Amazon attribution links, I assume, are they the best to use in marketing outside of Amazon? So yes, they're great. If you're gonna be sending traffic to Amazon, attribution links will give you a discount on your referral fees. So the referral fee is what Amazon charges you because they're bringing you traffic. But if you're sending traffic from off of Amazon to Amazon, Amazon's going to give you a reduction in your referral fees because you're the one that actually brought the traffic to Amazon. And so they're like, hey, thank you for bringing us a customer. Here's a little reduction on your FBA fees or your referral fees specifically. So secondly, is it better to use FBA or third-party warehouse for selling on your own site? So with FBA, actually, you can fulfill outside of Amazon. So there's an integration. I have not done this in years, but you can absolutely still use FBA or Amazon's warehouse facilities and capabilities to fulfill your off Amazon orders. So I look more into that. I think it's called multi-channel fulfillment would be the main keyword you want to Google or YouTube. But multi-channel fulfillment is a really good source or way to do it because it just kind of keeps all your inventory in one spot versus using a 3PL for some inventory off Amazon and Amazon for your on Amazon inventory. So no, the shipping is not included in the calculator on Amazon. So for context for those, if you go on any type of product page or search results, you click the net revenue hyperlink, it'll send you to the profit calculator, which here we have a bunch of pre-submitted things in here. So like the product weight and dimensions determines your product tier, which determines your fulfillment fee. Your price determines your referral fee. So if I change that to like $25, you'll see the referral fee changes, or it changes when I click calculate profit. But no, sorry, was that storage? Oh, shipping. Shipping is not included, right? So when in your product cost, this is where you need to add that in. So like, let's say your supplier says $6 for the product, and then you're going to send in 1,000 units, and that cost comes to $2 per unit. Then you need to factor that in, so $6 to $8 here. And then when you calculate profit, you'll see your ROI percentage, which we shoot for at least 100%, and then your profit from that percentage. So no, it doesn't include shipping or storage. You kind of just got to add that. That's why whenever we do any calculations, we add the shipping costs like I just showed. We'll also add a few dollars for like storage per unit. So I might go like 920 or 950 depending on like the size of the product. And then you could even go even more for like, factoring like advertising. But if you're just trying to find the organic conversion percentage, which is what we're trying to like teach for the most part, you can just add in your own shipping and storage manually. And they're really just estimates until you actually get the cost. Cool. Alrighty. Zane, I think I didn't actually answer that, but the ROI percentage that we shoot for, at least when estimating, is 100%, and the margin is 33% that we shoot for on organic sales. When you kind of factor in advertising, it's a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit lower, but ideally it will be in that 100 ROI or 33%. 33% net margin. All right. Oh, and then shipping to customers, if that's what you were asking about. Yeah, sorry. So shipping to customers is included in the FBA fee. I was actually more so speaking on the shipping from your supplier to your country or wherever you're selling in. That would be what you need to add in manually here. The shipping to customers through Amazon is part of this fulfillment fee. Thanks for that clarification. Cool. Well, all right. So about an hour, 40 minutes in. I hope you guys enjoyed this live Q&A. Again, we're going to go live again next week. Feel free to add any comments I couldn't get to today or any comments that come up later in the comment section below, or any questions that you have below. And we'll start with those next week as our pre-submitted questions before getting into the live questions. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I need lunch. That's why I'm slurring my words a little bit. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I will see you next week. And until then, happy selling. We'll see you.